My Papaya here. So today you guys will be talking about a movie called Life 101 Angel Secret. Now I was scrolling through Tubi and I was looking and I found this and I was like, "What? I remember this movie." Me and my sister used to watch this movie so many times. We had it on a Blockbuster tape. I think it was. I know it was on DVD and we watched it all the time. And even though, we were too young to be watching something of this subject matter, but yeah, it has stuck with me ever since. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with this movie recap slash commentary. So basically, the movie just starts off with we have our main character Angel, and basically you'll just watch her as she progresses. It's kind of like almost like a girlhood kind of movie, but it deals with some serious issues that start off very small and turn into very big situations. So basically, it starts with Angel. She's at school, and I believe she's in ninth grade, so probably 13, 14 at this point. And a guy comes up to her, Chris. I guess he's one of the popular guys at the school, asking her, "Hey, do you want to come hang out with me and my friends?" And she's like a little hesitant because she's like, my mom is very strict. She's not going to let me go and hang out with a bunch of guys. And so he's like, "Hey, what your mom doesn't know, it can't hurt her." And she's like, okay, just so gullible, looking for that attention, gullible at that age. So that's understandable. So her friend comes up to her, is like, "Hey girl, was that Chris that was just talking to you?" And she's like, "Yeah, it was." And so Angel is at home, finally gets home, and her sister, who's I guess is in college, is like, "Hey, what's going on with you? What's up with you?" Just trying to get interested in like what she has going on, try to be the bigger sister kind of trope. And she's like, "What's going on? Why are you getting dressed? Like, why do you have on like these seat like your back is out in this outfit?" And she's like, "You're too young to be wearing these type of clothes. Like, where are you going?" And she's just asking her all these questions. And she's telling him, telling her, "Be very careful, at this age. There's a lot that you can get into. You just always want to be careful and safe." And then she tells her, "Well, yeah," she starts opening up a little bit more. And she's like, "Well, yeah, this guy Chris invited me to a party. I'm gonna go in." And she's like, "Chris, I know, him from his brother. Just be very careful because his brother, I guess when she was in school with the brother was something else." So she's like, "We might want to be careful with him." And so they're at the party and she sees Chris and they end up going to the back. And basically, he sweets talks her and they end up sleeping together. And so it ends up going to the next part, and her friend ends up asking her, "Hey, what happened?" And she tells her, what happened between her and Chris, and how her friend's like, "Well, you're a woman now." And so she kind of is like, "Oh, excited and everything." And so her mom drops her off at school and she's like, "Angel, before you go, I want to tell you something." And she's like, "I know I'm a little hard on you sometimes, but just so you know, you're too young for boys. You shouldn't be even thinking about boys. You shouldn't even be hanging out with boys." And she's just telling her, "You're too young for boys." And so Angel ends up telling her, it's like, "Okay, mom, I understand." And it's kind of like Angel is giving one way at home and then she's one way at school. One way at home and one way at school as far as behavior, as far as dressing, everything. She's just total different person. And so Angel ends up, it skips, she's now at home and she's asking her sister,
I'm the
like
oldest.
inquisitively, like
Besides,
deeply
his
about
brother ain't
what is up with this guy, Chris, about his brother. "Tell me about his brother." And she's like, "Why do you want to know about him? Like, this has nothing to do with him. He might be a different person," but like, she's like questioning, like, "Why do you need to know about him?" And so she tells her a little bit, but she doesn't go into too many details about the brother. And so Angel ends up, telling her friend, I guess assuming her best friend, about her experience of, with Chris and it being her first time. And so she ends up telling her that, she has some stuff going on, like some issues going on. And so Angel ends up writing a love letter to Chris. And I think this was very popular during that time, like around the early 2000s era. If you were in high school, you wrote love letters and poems and notes. I don't think they really do that anymore. But side note. And so then she calls him and he's like, "Who is this?" Like, dude, you don't remember her voice? Like, come on now. You're not that much of a player that you can't even recognize her voice. And he's like, "Who is this?" "Oh, Angel. Oh, it's you." And so she tells him like the problem she's been having ever since they've, you know, slept together. And she's been like having issues. And so he's like, "Well, what do you mean? You're having issues and stuff." And basically, he goes off. He's like, "Well, that's never happened to me before. You need to go get checked out. I'm going to have my brother take me to go get checked out." And she's like, "Well, I can't have anybody go get, have me checked out because I'll get in trouble." And so Angel ends up telling her friend, and her friend advises her, "You probably shouldn't tell your mom because, you might actually get in trouble." And so it's been a couple of months, time has passed, and so Angel ends up confronting Chris at school, and he tells her, the horrible experience about like how he had to get checked, in order for them to check to see what was going on with him. He had to like this horrendous, like very like gut-wrenching detail about how he had, I think it was some metal clamps and all this, how he had to get checked. And so she's like, "I don't want that, so I will not be going." And so, little does she know, her mom ends up finding the letter that she wrote to Chris and confronts her about it. And she's like, "You know what?" Because I guess in the letter she wrote about the infection. And she's like, "Well, you know what? Guess what? I know all about the little letter that you wrote. I know all about the little situation you got going on right now. And this is unacceptable because I already told you you were too young to date." And she said, "At that, you weren't even using any protection. Like, you're just out here being fast. You're being out of control. Like, you need to stop while you're ahead." And Angel's like scared. She's like, "Oh my gosh, my mom has found this letter." And she's just scared. But I'm gonna like, I zoomed in the letter. I'm guessing she wrote about her experience with him. And it was in gruesome detail. And so the mom knows everything at this point. And so she knows about the infection. She tells her, "We're going to the doctor tomorrow. You're going to get checked out. And I don't know why you've been sitting around for months with green stuff coming out of you and you haven't said anything." And so the mom takes her to the appointment and she tells her, "You need to go. You're not going anywhere. You're on lockdown." So her friend ends up coming over and they end up studying because she's grounded or whatever. And she basically tells her friend that she had ended up getting an STD, which was gonorrhea, from Chris. And so then the friend is like, "What? You got that from him?" Like, wow, this is, she's very much disgusted, as she should be. And she tells her that she'll be waiting till she gets married in order to do that, which is very smart at that age. And so then it ends up skipping to 3 years later. And you can kind of see the switch from her being 13 to being, I'm assuming, a senior now. So she's probably 17 or 18 at this point. Um, yeah, she would be 17 at this point, and or 16 at this point. Would she be a senior though? I think she would be a senior. I'm not sure because her age is different. And when I was in ninth grade, I was 14. So basically, Angel's hanging out with this new friend, and she goes up to a guy. This guy's name is Tony, and she's being kind of fast, like putting on him. He's like, "Do I know you?" She was like, "Oh yeah, I gave you my number. You never called me." And he's like, "Oh, well, I'll call you now." And so her and this friend, this girl, end up inviting the two guys, Tony and his friend, to come and hang out. And they end up sleeping together. And so her mom, ain't little does she know, while she's doing that, her mom is at home and she's folding clothes, and she ends up finding the skirts that Angel has been putting on to go to school. When she gets to school, she changes her outfit to something more provocative. So she might go to school in jeans, and at school she's wearing a mini skirt, and then she'll change back into that afterwards. So yeah, she was definitely being fast. And so um someone comes up, and the mom ends up going to the school, and she calls Angel out of class, and she's like, she calls Angel out of class. Angel goes, and she already knows her mom is there, and she has the miniskirt on. So she ends up, before she goes to the office to see her mom, she ends up going to the locker room and changing. Angel then goes inside and she thinks she's pulled a fast one over her mom. Her mom's like, "Girl, I already know your little secret. I already know you done switched into the pants and you're in trouble." She said, "You're too busy up here trying to be fast." This is the third time her mom already told her she's being too fast and she's still doing it. And so she ends up, you know, getting exposed. And so Angel is at work and she is totally off. Like, she's like not getting the orders right. She's like very delirious kind of and confused. And so she ends up taking a pregnancy test and lo and behold, she is pregnant. And so her sister, without knowing that she's pregnant, her sister just knows something is going on. And so she's like, if you ever want to talk to me, I'm here. Like, I am here. I'm assuming because of the previous situation with her having gonorrhea. And I think that situation kind of made her not want to tell her mom about her situation, being pregnant. And so Angel ends up meeting with Tony and she tells him, "I'm pregnant. Like, what does this mean?" And he's like, "I do not care. Like, this is not my child. You don't know if it's somebody else's child." Like, he is just the rudest guy ever. She should have knew he was rude the moment when she walked up to him and he was like, "Who are you?" Like, she is just like begging for this guy, and it looks bad on her part. And so Angel's back at school, and two girls, I don't know if they overheard that she was pregnant, or Chris or Tony went around telling people that Angel is saying that she's pregnant by him. And so she ends up, two girls end up like bullying her, making baby sounds like, well, trying to tease her or whatnot. And so Angel, she's still in class, and a lady comes in talking about STDs and pregnancy and just everything about, sexual education. And she gets extremely emotional, knowing her situation. Like, she has all this going on. She's had gonorrhea. She's pregnant now. And she has like literally no support. And so she gets emotional. Her teacher's like, "What's going on, Angel? You've never been like this before. Is everything okay?" And Angel's just like, she leaves. And so she's in a library and a girl walks up to Angel and is like, "So I hear you're pregnant by Chris too." And she's like, "Well, I am too. Our babies are gonna be brother and sister." And she's like, "So what are you gonna do?" And the girl's like, "What do you mean? What am I gonna do? I'm keeping my baby. Like, was old enough to lay down and have the baby. I'm gonna go through the process." And Angel's like, "Well, no, I have options." She's like, "What about college? What about, all these different experiences?" So Angel ends up going to the clinic and she ends up having an abortion. And so she tells her friend, how painful the experience was. And her friend's like, "I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you," or whatnot. And basically, Angel just, is still dealing with this pain or whatnot. So she ends up telling her mom that she's going to just stay home from school. And so she says, that is the issue that she's staying home from is because of cramps. So she ends up taking a shower. She's home alone at this point. She ends up taking a shower and she sees blood and faints. Thank God her mom, ends up walking into the house. And as she's downstairs, she hears Angel and her mom. And so they end up calling 911. And basically, the mom comes in and tells her that basically she had a pregnancy in the fallopian tubes and that caused her somehow to bleed out and her belly ended up being filled with blood, so they had to do emergency surgery. And so the ending of this like whole thing ends up with Angel, end up in the hospital, and this her sister is blaming herself because she's like, "Why wasn't I there?" Her friend is blaming herself because she's like, "I should have told somebody that she had, was doing these things." And then even her mom was blaming herself because she's like, "Maybe I was too hard on my daughter," like, all these issues. And one of the doctors ends up telling them, "It's not your fault. Like, this is what's happening nowadays. It's a lot of teen pregnancies these days. It's a lot of people doing things without having the proper education or having the proper, knowledge about these things." And basically it just ends kind of on a good note because it kind of ends up giving like one of those recaps. And it just ends with saying that basically the Angel ended up going to basically she ended up missing a month of school and she ended up having a good recovery. So she ended up graduating the next year. So she graduated late and she ended up going to the University State of Georgia. and she ended up getting married after that, or she had a fiance of 5 years, and she still be able to have children. So that's the good note. She'll still be able to have the children, able to have children, and that she'll be still able to have children, and that she also is doing very well right now, and that her relationship is still, you know, good. And it ends with her saying, like, they haven't kept a secret from each other since the tragic incident. And it ends with a kind of like a cryptic kind of note. I don't know if this is considered like cryptic, but it just ends with a note like of her saying, like, don't keep secrets. Secrets are dangerous. And it's actually based on a true story, even though the names and everything has been changed. So yeah, so my commentary on this movie is, when I was younger, I understood it, but like as I got older, I started to understand it more, because it's like these are real issues that happen to real people, and this secret ended up almost being deadly for her. Like, Angel almost put herself in a serious, serious situation that she probably wouldn't have been able to get out of had she not told her parent, her mom and her family, like, to help that support and need. Because kids are gonna make mistakes. People are gonna make mistakes all the time. But it's, I think, through education, I think it's through support and help that can help avoid some of those mistakes that people can make, or help to fix some of those mistakes. So yeah, this movie just kind of was a little nostalgic. I saw it on Tubi and I was like, I have to see if anybody else knows it out there. So if you know about this movie or remember it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and also comment in the below if you remember this movie, you've heard of it, and what are your thoughts on it. All right, bye bye, thank you so much.